Come take a trip in my airship. Come take a sail among the stars. Come have a ride around Venus. Come have a spin around Mars. Show us while we're busy. Show us to see while we school. Come take a trip in my airship and we'll visit the man in the moon. Will the audience please join me?
Hello and welcome to another Airship 27 Productions podcast. This is podcast number 79. I'm your co-host, Chief Engineer Rob Davis, and I'm here virtually alongside my co-host, Captain Ron Fortier.
Hey everyone, how you doing? Glad to be back. This is our first show since the Chicago trip and that wild, crazy video we did up there, episode 78. I don't know, but some of you know, but maybe if you don't, maybe Rob will catch us up a little bit. We had such a great show. It was so much fun. And then we headed home. And Rob, why don't you tell our loyal airmen what happened to you on the way home?
Yeah, it was an interesting trip home. In the middle of the night, I had started getting a kind of an itch underneath my arm right here, and I didn't think much about it. And then my hands were kind of itchy. And as I started down the road, I started getting hives, itchy all over everywhere. And I'm going, oh boy, what do I do now? I'm happy, I'm a third of the way home on my, just having left Chicago for a couple of hours, maybe an hour, hour and a half. And so I think it wasn't getting better. It was getting worse. So I stopped at a truck stop and I picked up some Benadryl because the last time I had hives like that, they had given me a massive dose of Benadryl. I thought this would at least knock it down till I got home. Didn't do a thing. So I got all the way to Springfield, Illinois, which is about halfway home. About halfway. And I found a convenience store or a convenient care place. What do they call those? I'm losing what those are called, but anyway, it's an emergency quick care that you can go to, and they had just opened up, so the timing was good. But I got in there, and she gave me a prescription for steroids and some antihistamines to take. Well, I misread her instructions, and I only took half a dose of the steroids, so it didn't do me any good. Or it did very little good. So I get all the way home and I'm thinking, okay, well, eventually it'll kick in, but a day or so went by and nothing happened. So I'm going, I got to go to my regular doctor. So I went to him. He doubled the dose of her dose that she was giving me, and he doubled the dose on the antihistamines. But I was out with this thing for a week. Yeah. The steroids just knocked me down. They started giving me muscle aches. I had a hard time walking. It was a miserable week, and another week after that where I still wasn't feeling well. So my trip home was very exciting. How was your trip home, Ron?
Not the aftermath that any of us wanted. All right, that was absolutely ridiculous. I felt so bad when you let me know what happened. Are we any closer to a clue of what kicked that off?
No, and when I went to the doctor, I didn't even ask him. He says, we will probably never know what set it off. It could be as simple as, first of all, he goes, did you have a cold or a runny nose or anything? And I said, well, yeah, I had a little bit of a runny nose. He said, the virus that gave you that runny nose could have set it off.
Wow.
Who knew? But yeah, so it could have been as simple as that. Because of how it progressed, I still, at like almost 2 weeks after that, my hands were still swollen. I couldn't draw for like a week.
I remember.
Because my hands were I couldn't close them. They were like this.
Yeah, whatever got into you was
my hands were the
stuff.
worst.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, and also under my arms and in other areas that I won't talk about, it was the worst. So I'm thinking it was areas where I scrubbed with the soap in the hotel room. Now I don't know that that's what's it, but that's my using Sherlock Holmes's methods. That's the
Oh,
most probable, I think, is the soap. So from now on, when I travel, I'm taking my own soap along, my own soap, my own shampoo, my own conditioner. I'm taking all that with me.
there you go.
So because we were in a hotel that we normally don't stay in. It was
Right.
the
This
actual
is true.
hotel
Yeah.
that the convention was in. So
Yeah.
and they had kind of a perfumey frou soap in the room, and I didn't like it when I used it, but it was there, and I hadn't brought along my own, but never again. I'm still taking antihistamines just to because
the adventures of Airship 27 traveling. Oh yeah,
yeah. Yeah, and he also says as you get older, your body starts becoming more allergic to certain things.
Yeah.
And I had this once before, like 15 or so years prior.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I went to the hospital, the emergency room, and they pumped me full of Benadryl and sent me home with some antihistamines and stuff. But that was nowhere near as bad as this was.
Oh, I'm just glad it's totally in the rearview mirror. That's ridiculous.
For the most
Absolutely.
part, yeah. And my doctor says every once in a while you need to take and scratch your arm, and if it turns red shortly afterwards, double up on the histamines, the antihistamines, because it's still in my system, or I'm allergic to something else.
Well,
So
it's
I may eventually go to an allergist.
right.
And,
Yeah. Right. Well, I was going to say, because
if it continues to be a bad thing,
just corroborating what you said, our bodies do change as we age.
Yep. Yep.
And I had never been one for any kind of seasonal allergies ever until I got to like about my early 50s, and the fall started coming, and I found myself with runny noses, having a hard time breathing at night, coughing and whatever. And since that time, every time fall rolls around, I have allergies, and I have to grab Benadryl and stuff like that to get by.
Let me give you a little tip that I learned from my doctor. Famotidine, which they sell over the counter as an acid reducer, is actually also an antihistamine.
Really?
And it doesn't make you It doesn't make you as drowsy as Benadryl and some of the others.
Okay.
But you could buy it over the counter, and it works like an antihistamine. But it has the nice added side effect. It also reduces acid in your stomach. So double whammy there for me.
So there you go, Loyal Airman. That's this
That's
week's
your tip for the
medical
day.
assistance from Ron and Rob. All right. Hey, look, I have the dubious honor of the first bad joke of the month.
Well, here we go.
So here we go. Let's roll her out. All right. A Texas millionaire named Buck found himself in Ireland one summer on a business trip. After the business meetings all day, he saw a little pub and decided to walked up to the bar and ordered a drink. And as he was standing there, looked around at all the Irishmen hanging around. And so the tension plays. He goes, I'm from Texas, where we do things big. And he said, I've always heard that you Irishmen know how to drink. At which point he pulls his wallet out of his jacket and counts out 5 $1,000 bills, puts them on the bar, and says, I will give $5,000 to any man who can come up to this bar and drink 100 shots of whiskey back to back. So everybody in the bar is quiet. Everybody's looking at him. The bartender's chuckling a little bit. No takers. What? No takers? And just as he says that, a little man gets up in the back, looks at him, shakes his head, and walks out the door. He goes, oh, thought we had a live one. He says, all right, you guys don't want to do it. He puts the 5,000 away, goes back to drinking, talking with some of the other patrons. And he doesn't realize time has passed away till about a half hour later. Looking in the mirror, he sees the front door open, and the little Irishman comes back in, walks through everybody, walks up to the bar and looks at him and says, I'm going to take your bet if it's still there. So Buck takes out the $5,000, puts it on the bar, calls the bartender over, and they proceed to start giving the little Irishman shots of whiskey. Sure enough, he drinks all 100. The crowd goes crazy. His friends are all cheering. Buck's shaking his head, gives him the 5,000. He goes, "That is remarkable." He said, "I have to give it to you." He says, "Mate," but he says, "I'm curious, that half-hour interlude, where'd you go?" And the little Irishman looks at him and says, "Cross the street to the other bar. I wanted to see if I could do it."
Oh, cheers. Oh,
Oh,
goodness.
okay.
Oh,
All right.
my.
There you go. So we'll hang in there for another like 25, 40 minutes or so, and let Rob
No,
regale us with
yeah.
his. All right. All right. So hey, we got a couple of things on the agenda this month. We did get a couple books out, and like I said, we have other topics to discuss. So I'll let you take the first agenda, my friend.
All right. Well, I forget whether we've talked about this before, but the people that print books for Amazon and which do all the printing for all our books, KDP now has got a beta program going on, a test program where they're doing hardback editions. They've got we and a number of other small publishers had got an opportunity to try making hardback editions. Well, when they first came out with it, I checked and we couldn't get author copies, which was pretty useless to us. We wanted them so we could sell them at conventions, or if our writers and artists could sell them at conventions or signings, and you'd have to buy them at cost, or at retail price. So there was no use us doing any of that. I mean, it would be cool to have some hardback books for sale on Amazon, but it really didn't. It wasn't feasible for us to do it. Well, they've changed that, and now they will sell them at author costs, which is a nice little discount off the retail price. So we're gonna try it out with one of our books. So I'm going to read this as Ron's written it. Recently, Amazon's printing arm, KDP, announced that they would make hardback editions available and offer account discounts for them. That's that author discount I was talking about. To that end, we decided to put together a text title which would show us the cost and quality of such editions. Our first Airship 27 hardback will collect Ron's first two Brother Bones collections in one volume to be called Brother Bones Grave Tales. It will feature 12 stories and all the interior art from the original editions that I did for the first two collections of Ron's stories. Adam Shaw has signed on to do the new cover. As soon as we have information on pricing, etc., we'll pass it along to everyone. Now, Adam sent us his thumbnail of what he wanted to do for the cover. I sent him. I actually have laid the book out already. It's all sized and everything, but because it's a hardback, and it's not the cover is actually the cover is printed on the book itself, the hardback. It's not a paper wrap like
It's what we call it, laminated, right?
yeah, it's laminated cover. So it has to be, the trim is completely different from a paperback. In other words, it's a plus you've got that little fold at the hardback spine that you have to account for. So anyway, I got it laid out that way. I had the numbers that I needed to use their little template maker. So I made the template and I sent it off to Adam, and promptly he got back to us with a real rough design of what he wants to do, and it kicks butt. Just the thumbnail kicks butt. So I can't wait to see what he actually does with it. So hopefully we'll hear back from him pretty soon. That's been a while ago, but I suspect Adam is really, really busy. At least I hope he's really, really busy, and that's why he can't get it
Right.
done for us. But he was very. I mean, he's done a lot of covers for us this last year, so we just about worn him out.
Well, the thing with that was, and
With it.
again, it's what we've talked about in past shows before. It's like when approaching, some of our artists who've taken on a heavy workload for us over the past year or so. Again, it's trying to find a hook, something that will intrigue them that they haven't done before, a challenge, some different kind of art theme or whatever. And in this particular case, my approach to Adam was very sincere. It was, this will be Airship 27's first ever hardback. And, we, wanted to go to you because, again, we were big fans of your work. Well, the sketch Rob is talking about, and let's make this absolutely clear, this is Adam once again giving us more than what we asked for.
Yeah.
We were basically asking for a cover. Well, his sketch is a wrap around cover.
The whole cover, back and front.
The major image is on the front, but it works its way across the spine.
Well, he asked me that when he agreed to do it. He says, "Well, can I do a wraparound?" And I went, "Go for it. I'd love to see a wraparound, especially his work." So yeah, and oh man. I can't wait to see the finished product.
Right. Neither can I. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And kudos to Adam. Okay. We're really excited about this. Again, it is, as I described it in the agenda reading, a test for us. All right. We're gonna check it out. If it comes out to the quality that we hope it does, all right, and looks good inside, outside, everywhere else, then obviously this is going to be the first of what hopefully will be many. We're leaving this to our individual writers, all right? We're going to continue publishing in the same formats we've been doing, i.e. Via Amazon, that being paperbacks and Kindles, and ultimately, thanks to Radio Archives, audio versions. And those are going to be our three mainstays, all right? Because I'm thinking, Rob, that it'll be a little pricey for hardbacks. And, so what we're basically doing is putting it back onto our creators and saying, look, we now have this availability for you if we like it. If we think the quality is good and it'll amp up, your prestige as a writer, author, and whatever, and you would like us to do a hardback to go that route, then let us know.
Yeah. The thing is, it costs us another ISBN, another number. We use one for the paperback. And we don't need to use one for the Kindle. I mean, we could, but it's superfluous is the best word I can use.
Yeah.
And of course, audiobook, that's a whole different deal. But a hardback, we'd have to use another ISBN. Now, fortunately, we buy a bunch of them at once, so there's a nice little discount on them. And so that's the only expense we have on those, which is it's minimal, but it's another expense.
Right.
But I don't know that we're going to sell a lot of hardbacks through Kindle or through Amazon, but I'm betting we could sell a few at conventions of certain books.
That's really my thought. My real thought is our authors, our writers are probably going to want, some of them will probably want some of these at their tables when they do signings at bookstores, libraries, or conventions or whatever. And so again, that's the point of all this, is that it's not going to be carte blanche. We're not going to say every single new production is going to be a hardback.
Right.
But if an author comes to us and said, I'd really like to have 5, 6, 10 of these, all right, then we'll proceed. We'll go get a hardback made.
I'll have to figure out what that cost is, because I would try to figure in the cost of the ISBN of what I charge them.
Yep.
So, but I would probably try and keep it as low as possible for them, because if they're willing to do that, I want to keep the cost down so they can make some money on them when they sell them wherever they are.
As always.
Yeah.
So so that's the really big news with Airship 27. Keeping in mind, hopefully you'll be seeing that Brother Bones Grave Tales within maybe by our next podcast.
We're just waiting for Adam, and I'm, like I said, I think he's probably really busy right now. And once he has an opening in his schedule, he'll put that together for us. And like I said, I can't wait to see what it looks like.
Well, we should be spectacular. We talk about him being busy, and most likely he's going to be the first, I think, our first in the history of the company to actually give us the cover for 2 books that came out back to back. And I'll explain that as we get to our next agenda, which is released since our last show, since
Right.
coming back from Chicago. All right. And the first of those was The Great Chicago Fire Conspiracy by George Takei. And the interiors were by Gary Cotto, with a cover by Chris Routing. Now, this was George's first book, and believe me, his excitement was uncontainable. He was going crazy in Chicago, and the book wasn't even out then. The book did come out after Chicago, within a week after Chicago, and George grabbed a bunch of copies. Thanks to a mutual Illinois friend and writer, Michael Black, they set up a book signing they did together and posted tons of pictures from that event, which looked to be very successful. It was a really great time. George is a great guy. It was a ball hanging with him at Chicago. He even took Rob and I out for dinner one night to thank us for this.
Yeah.
But he did it. It's his book. It's his writing, and it was the second thing he'd done for us. He'd done a Sherlock Holmes story in the recent Sherlock Holmes anthology, the last one we put out.
Yep.
And so
he had some of those at his signing as well. He had both.
Right.
But he said he only had a handful of books. He ordered more books. He ordered a ton of that Chicago Fire Conspiracy book. Now, the serendipity here is that this is a special anniversary. I forget how many years ago the actual fire happened, but it was an anniversary, and there's actually been some publicity about it. So he got to ride that little wave, some guerrilla marketing there.
Yep.
And he sold most, if not all, of the books that he had, and he's ordered more. And I think he's received those too. I think he had a convention like at the end of this month that he's going to go to as well. So yeah, he's promoting the heck out of this book.
You're gonna be seeing a lot more of this guy's names, believe me, on the byline. In fact, just giving Rob a heads up, he just turned in a new Secret Agent X story for us.
Ooh,
it's
good.
been way too long since we've done
on my favorite character of ours.
There you go. Keep that in mind. All right. So what came after that, Rob?
Oh, let's see. Mystery Men and Women, Volume 7, with stories by Teal James Glenn, Greg Hatcher, Curtis Fernland, Harding McFadden, and Eleanor Hawkins. Yours truly did the interiors with a Dr. Fix-It cover by Adam Shaw. Kick butt cover. Loved it. Loved it. I sent him, I think we talked about this before. I sent him a sketch as to what I thought that should be on the cover, and as usual, he just used that as inspiration and did his own thing, which just knocked it out of the park. As I emailed Ron and I said, well, he stepped up to the plate and tried to hit it over the back wall and knocked it out into the street outside the stadium. That's how far he hit this home run. It's really great.
It's beautiful. It's an absolutely beautiful cover. It really got a really positive response when we started promoting it on Facebook, and people started seeing it. All right, this series is creating a fan following. I think we're getting more and more people excited about Mystery Men and Women, and that's a great thing. I mean, it was one of those things where we wanted to make it a showcase type of series, and to that effect. One of the things I think we should talk a little bit about in talking about this particular Volume 7, this was our third Dr. Fix-It story.
Right.
Okay. So here's how this thing is working out. So now, basically, we're Greg Hatcher, the creator and writer, to give us another Dr. Fix-It story. We would be up to 60,000 words, i.e., a book. A full book. So what we've done is
book.
So what we've done is approached Greg with the possibilities of, again, having him write a fourth story, which would be brand new, collecting the first three, adding the brand new story, and actually putting out sort of like a spin-off from Mystery Men and Women, right? And hopefully working out that kind of a little logo on it, like from the pages of Mystery Men and Women comes, and then Dr. Fix-It by Greg Hatcher, And then in the back, let people know we're reprinting the original first 3 plus the brand new story, which is another incentive to pick up this volume of Dr. Fix-It. Now, I'm mentioning all this because I am keeping my fingers crossed. Greg, as some of you may know on Facebook, if you're not following with, has had a hellacious, horrible year in and out of hospitals, dealing with some kind of throat cancer. All right, and he basically gets better. They take care of him. They intubate him and do all kinds of horrible things that none of us would ever want to go through. He survives it. He keeps his spirits up. His wife, Julie, is there by his side all the time, carrying messages back and forth to friends and whatever. And then, okay, you're good to go. And they send him home. And we're all happy. And then within 2 weeks, if or less, he gets a
Something
relapse.
else happens.
Right. And he's back in the hospital.
I thought I had a bad trip home. He's had it a lot rougher than I have. So,
Julie's posted a few pictures over the last few months of him in the hospital, and every single picture is of him smiling, Rob. All right. He's given people thumbs up. His attitude is just inspiring. It's absolutely amazing. Julie, related this offer we had to him of the Dr. Fix-It books. He's excited. He wants to do it. He wants to get it done. So, hey, for all of you friends out there who know Greg, send him a get well card, a message or something. Okay, let's keep his spirits up there. Let's keep him in our thoughts, wishes, and prayers, and hopefully he can get past this. He can survive this, conquer it, get home, and just keep writing and giving us some of these amazing stories.
He's on the right road. He's got the right attitude. He's fighting it. That's how you get past this. And and apparently he's got pretty good doctors, and he's got Julie on his side, who's in the hospital with him. If you go into the hospital, make sure somebody's there with you. I'm serious, because
it can be a lonely place. Believe me.
It can be a lonely place. Plus, you've got an advocate for you in case you're incapacitated. You've got somebody there to say, "Oh no, don't do that. That we shouldn't be doing that to him. That's a problem for him." So you need somebody like that there.
Amen. I'm with you 100%. Okay, so what's coming next? Those are the 2 books that we got out, but we've got a bunch of them. It's a horse race now. Okay, coming down to the final lap. All right. Most likely, the next one is going to be a Western, Marshall Horn of Talon's Crossing. Now, this is by writer Tyler Offhammer. It's a collection of 3 Western stories featuring a marshal from the small Nevada town. Artist Jeff Cram did the interior illustrations.
Nice.
And this is his first work for Airship 27, and we tip our hats to Jeff. This was a long haul for Jeff, because Jeff was dealing with carpal tunnel. If you've seen some of our last podcasts, again, Rob mentioned his own dealings with that kind of malady.
I'm keeping it at bay by wearing pressure gloves.
So the last 3 illustrations were really a challenge for Jeff, and he got them done. And they're as beautiful as the first 6 he did. So the book now is in the hands of a woman named Kimberly Hansen, who I happened to meet here in Fort Collins at Free Comic Book Day. She enjoys reading. She wanted to get into some kind of editing. And so as we talked, I mentioned the concept of proofreading. She agreed she'd love to do that for us. And so Rob assembled the PDF. He sent it off to Kimberly. She's now reading and proofing it. And again, we got the amazing, Adam Shaw to turn in a cover for us, and he did. And it's another.
We've had it for a while, so
So we're just waiting on Kimberly to finish proofing the book. We get it in. It'll be again the second release, one after the other, featuring an Adam Shaw cover. So
newsflash. She sent me the first. He's written it as 4 short stories. She's proofread the first short story and has moved on to the second one, but she sent me the first one so I can start making the corrections. So we're on the road.
Kimberly, go.
We're on the dusty road.
Yeah, it's always nice to add to the Airship 27 family. She's a really wonderful lady, and I'm really glad she joined in. Okay, and you're gonna like the stories. The stories are good old-fashioned westerns. That's what Jeff wrote. This isn't the weird variety, whatever. This is authentic cowboy stories, and I love those as much as anything else. So hopefully the book does well for us, and who knows, maybe Tyler will give us some more Marshall Horn tales in the future. All right. So then what possibly could we be seeing, my friend?
Well, somewhere else in the queue coming along as everything else. This one's Dragon Throat, The Chronicles of Altiva by Teal James Glenn, who seems to be getting a lot of getting stuff over the transom does quite a bit here recently. That's what the second time we mentioned his name in this show already. It has interiors by Chris Nye with a cover by Michael Youngblood. So, and that one's in the queue. You don't write what this one's about, Ron. Can you tell us what some of the basics of this one is?
Yeah, definitely. This is more along the lines of like an Edgar Rice Burroughs otherworldly adventure.
Yeah, I can see that.
Whereas the hero is a young Marine veteran from the Middle East and campaigns, Afghanistan, whatever, who lost a leg there, has a prosthetic, and is pretty much getting by on his own in the country when suddenly something happens in the first chapter, and he's out like in the Arizona desert or whatever, and this like gaping hole appears in space and time and sucks him away. And he ends up in the planet Altiva, the world of Altiva, okay, which is more along the lines of your typical middle was on a Dark Ages type period in history, with sword and sorcery and sword blades and whatever, all right, and various political factions trying to dominate this world, okay. But what our young Marine doesn't realize is, as he's trying to understand why he's there, we slowly get a little backstory into the fact that that's where he came from originally. All right. And his own history goes back to him being a young orphan and not knowing his parents or whatever. And there's this hint of royal blood, and he was, sent to Earth to keep him away from factions that would want to kill him. This is like only the first book in the series. It's brilliantly written, and it has a lot of elements of mystery, action, adventure, and fantasy. And it's typical of Teal. He always puts a really unique spin on whatever he tackles. So we're really anxious for this. Michael Youngblood's doing our cover. Once it comes in, Chris and I did some amazing interior illustrations.
I'm trying to think. I think this one's already proofread and corrected, if I remember.
It is. It's
so all we're waiting on is that cover. So
Right.
It's neck and neck between Dragon Throat and Marshall Horn as to which one comes in next. Now I've got to get this one, the Marshall Horn. I've got to get it corrected and then off to the author and have him run through it once. So it's got a little further to go than Dragon Throat does, but otherwise Dragon Throat, it looks like it's running neck and neck. I mean,
well, there's also another horse in the race, which I had forgotten to put down, which is like, duh. After I sent you the agenda, because you're going to get a laugh out of this, okay? Because it's the one you're working on right now, all right? Which is basically
break that up or not?
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, and we're talking about Nancy Hansen's Jezebel Johnson, Volume 8, called Revelation, all right? And this is the 8th chapter in her Pirate Queen saga. In this particular episode, as you recall, the last two, she and her shipmates had gone off to Europe, to the Mediterranean, and the Barbary Coast, right, and got all kinds of involved.
Actually, didn't they go around the southern Horn of Africa,
right,
and then they went over into the Indian Ocean, is where they ended up, if I recall
exactly.
correctly. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah,
you're right.
Not through the Mediterranean. That's the other direction. But they went down around the southern Horn of Africa, and then
and she got sold into slavery. The saga is amazing. It's just
she goes places with this. She takes a left turn when I'm expecting a right turn. And I'm reading these as I'm illustrating them, obviously.
Right, and book 7 actually ended on a real cliffhanger. It was a sea battle about to occur between British forces and Arabian ships and flotilla. And so she picks up right at that start, as Rob can attest. The action is fast and furious. It really, sets off the book. And then ultimately comes that point where she realizes that her future lies back in the Caribbean. She's got to go back home. And what happens to her getting there, and when she does get back home, I don't want to give spoilers. All right.
Oh, she did it. She's got us on another cliffhanger. I mean, it does. The story ends here. This is another. We did the first collection of her books that we did was four novels. Now this is the second batch of 4 novels. So we'll collect these into an omnibus as well. So it kind of wraps things up, but it's also got a cliffhanger for the next saga in Jezebel Johnston's life.
Oh,
She's got me on the edge of my seat, waiting for the next one.
The character is remarkable, and one of the things that Nancy and I talked about in our messages back and forth, our emails, as you know, she turns in each new chapter of the saga and everything, and basically it was like, okay, so she always knew her ultimate goal for Jezebel, all right, and that was she was going to be a pirate queen. That was the way.
Yep.
But it was the getting there that becomes, the treasure for all of us, okay, and the cast and crew, those who become loyal allies, whereas those who are enemies of her, who still are out there someplace. And it all works together extremely well, especially since the fact that it's all historically accurate on top of everything else. So you're immersed in the culture of what the pirate, world was, its philosophy, the rules of ships and how they organize their cast and crews and whatever.
how they're navigated, how battles take place between ships on the sea.
Oh,
I have to do a bunch of research. I have to make, because I want to make sure that she mentions a certain type of ship. Well, I have to look up what that ship looks like. And she's got a section where they're doing some repairs on the mast, and I'm going, okay, we all know what the mast looks like when it's up above the ship. What does it look like on the deck? How does it attach? So I had to research that. So
the thing is,
but that's the fun. That's the fun of this sort of stuff.
I think
anyway.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, by the time I'd gotten out of high school, I had discovered British writer C.S. Forster, and his Horatio Hornblower novels. All right, and reading Nancy's saga, I get that same feeling again. Okay, because she gives us this world that's authentic. All right, because of her brilliant research. All right, but at the same time, this romantic adventure of this unique, female character. All right, that is pretty much unlike anything that's been done in fiction, as far as I'm concerned. Most pirate stories have been about the guys, all right, and those kind of sagas. But Nancy's Jezebel Johnson stands on her own 2 feet, and like yourself, I finish a book and it's like, dang, when's the next one coming out? Okay, I really want to.
Yeah.
I think the plan is, and Nancy can correct me when she sees this, but it's beginning to look like she's going to do another 4. And so we're going to have another on this. We'll end up with a series of 12, and each a different saga. All right, the Caribbean, the introductions. Now we've got the Barbary Coast and all that, and which will be the second omnibus. And as we get back to it with volume 9, 10, 11, 12, we're going to get to that conclusion, that big finale that all of us are chomping the bits to get to. So hang in there, pirate fans. This is a winner big time. And Rob's not only doing the interiors, which are, again, beautiful, awesome. I love them. But Rob's also handling the cover on this one. So yahoo.
Yep. I'm 2 illustrations away from starting the cover. So I've got the layouts for them, the thumbnails done on them. And I will probably be editing this podcast tonight. So I won't be able to get to those, so maybe tomorrow. So, okay. There we are.
That's it.
Now,
okay.
I have one. I have you always write at the end. Anything else? Well, we can talk about your difficulties on Facebook, and this kind of leads into that because we received a message on Facebook at the Airship 27 messenger site, and I don't think Ron has seen it because he's had some troubles with his account, at Facebook, and maybe we can go into that at some other. I don't know if you want to go into that now or not. But anyway, we received a message on Facebook from a fan wanting to know if there's a follow-up sequel to Rune Master. I believe there is, but I don't have the details. I know you've been in contact with the writer. Is there anything you can tell us at this point on that particular
Okay.
book, Ron?
All right. Not in details per se,
Okay.
because the author is Mike Bullock. All right.
I forgot who wrote it. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So Mike Bullock's the author, and it was the first thing that Mike has done for Airship 27. And he enjoyed the experience a great deal. You know, we set him up with Chris Nye. I mean, arguably one of the best graphic artists out there who knocked those illustrations out of the ballpark. Steve Otis did a magnificent sword and sorcery cover.
Yeah, nice
so
cover.
somebody on Facebook had made comments when we first were promoting it and got it out there about this is some of the best sword and sorcery I've read in a long time. Is there going to be more? And Mike's definitive answer was yes. There is more Rune Master, and whether he's finished them or writing them now, but I can, clearly and assuredly say there will be sequels to the first Rune Master. And, maybe I'll make a small note of myself after this podcast to drop Mike a short note.
To see where it is, where the next one is. I'm sure he's got other projects he's working on too, which might take precedence, but,
all of us.
Yeah. But he wanted to do. I knew he wanted to do one. I knew there was possibly one in the works, but I didn't know where it was in the queue. But yeah.
So hey, look, the thing Rob's talking about. I'm gonna give you a Reader's Digest version real quick.
Yeah.
Several months back, for whatever reason, and I sincerely do not know what that was. Okay, Facebook has begun changing their algorithms to the point where if I even try to post reviews or to multiple pages, and which is what I would do. If I wrote book reviews, I'd post them in 5 or 6 different pages. When we put out a new Airship 27 title, I'll post a press release, the URL where it's at an Amazon, and I was posting those at 10 to 15 pulp-related pages. All of a sudden, Facebook says I can't do that. Okay, I can't do that promotion. I can't use URLs. Those are the things they're telling me when they're basically sending me these warnings that I am not complying with their business model or their new rules and regulation, until one day I try to log on and I can't. I can't put my email identification and my password, and it comes back and says you have, your site's been removed. But it's still there. People are still seeing it.
Go look at it. Yeah, it's still
but
there.
I can't,
he just can't get to it or post it.
I can't access it. So Rob helped me out, and initially we created a new site, which was going to be, instead of Ron Fortier's Facebook page, I would use my full name, Ronald, and we created Ronald Fortier at Facebook. Well, this lasted all of 2 weeks until they took it down again, for absolutely no logical reason. Every time I try to log on and I try to basically go to consumer help, customer help, whatever you want to call it, I get caught in this vicious circle whether they ask for confirmation.
You will never get to a human being, because I've tried the same thing. You can't get to a human being.
That's the problem.
It's all automated,
And nobody looks at those things. You get told, "Oh, we'll get back to you in 24 hours." Sorry, Facebook, that's BS. Okay, nobody gets back to you. Nobody. They've gotten too big. It's basically it's become a monster they can't control.
And we've gotten too dependent on them, to be honest. It's been an easy way for us to promote things. I suspect what's happened here is that they want. Yeah, I mean, whenever you post something that seems somewhat commercial, you always get this little note. Do you want to boost this? Do you want to pay us such and such in order to boost this as an ad to a certain people who might be interested in it? So I suspect that's what it is. They're trying to monetize what you've been doing. And
right.
And I think they're using some coercive methods.
I
don't know whether it's planned to do it that way, but the effect is that's what's happening.
Makes it sound like they want their piece of the pie. Okay. And so here's where all this ended.
We don't have a very big pie.
This is where all this ended. This past week, out of frustration and not wanting to, just depend on Rob and my other friends and whatever, I created as yet another page, all right, and trying to come up with a different name that, would just divorce myself from my own real name, but at the same time have fun with it, play with it. And so I used the pulp character, Captain Hazard, all right. I created a page for Kevin Hazard, all right, and got that up there and slowly began telling people who I am.
Facebook.
No, right. Keep
Don't
that
tell
away
Facebook.
from them. It's my secret identity on Facebook. All right. But again, Rob's been helping me with stuff like that so that I can still happily manage the
he
Pulp
needs to be an
Factory group.
administrator on certain sites, and he's made me an administrator in so for cases like this where I can actually take care of things when he can't. I mean, I don't want to run all these sites. I have enough trouble running my own personal website, and I do a little bit with the Redbud comics site every once in a while. But those two are more than I wanted, more time than I want to spend on Facebook as it is. But so I've done a lot more trying to help him get things worked out. But
well, yeah.
hopefully this will work at least for a while. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and so we're all mentioning this because ultimately our friends are catching on, are seeing it, and are hooking up with me. So if you haven't done so already, and you're wondering who this Kevin Hazard guy is, it's moi. Please connect with me on Facebook. We're still, and again, the sites that I really want to keep managed are the Airship 27 site for all you loyal airmen, and the Pulp Factory group, which is important to us, okay, because of the community as a whole. And so that's where that's going. Now, anything else in this category? You want to mention the Silverline Christmas special?
Oh, yeah, that's up at Kickstarter and Indiegogo right now. I'm glad you brought that up. I had forgotten all about that. But yeah, I mean, I'll put in the show notes. I don't know how many days are left on that, but this is a monster collection of stories featuring all the characters or most of the characters that Ronald or Roland. I'll get his name out here in a minute. Roland Mann, the guy who runs. He's gonna make fun of me for this. Roland Mann is the guy who's in charge of Silverline, and he's the one that ramrods all this. But anyway, he's gotten all these folks to do different stories. I've got 2 6-pagers in there. Ron's got a story in there. I don't know how. I think what is it, 12 or 13 or 14 different characters. So this thing's a monster. Color printed comic book, graphic novel size, actually, because it's got that many stories in it. But this thing is up at Indiegogo right now, and at Kickstarter, and it's reached its goals. But we'd like an opportunity for everyone who wants to jump on the bandwagon here and get one of these, because you'll get your name if you put money into it. You get your name on the credits page and a bunch of other stuff. So. And you might even have, I think I don't know everything that's on this site about what they're giving away with this, but jump over to Indiegogo and look up the Silverline Christmas special. And if you want to throw a little money at it, if not, wait for it to come out. I think it will probably end up on the Indie Planet site, so you can order it from there. Yep. And it's big enough, he might also put that into comic shops. I don't know, but in comic shops it would be out in time for this Christmas, maybe next year. But anyway, these are all Christmas stories featuring the characters. I did one.
That was a radical idea. I mean,
yeah.
Again, Silverline has been in business for a couple of years now. Rob's been doing a book for them and working on other things. And my series hasn't as yet launched, but it's in production. So Roland, being, the fair guy he is along, just basically said, well, look, this is the Silverline team. We want you to write us a short, 6-page story with your character revolving around Christmas. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, well, my character is a jewel thief. So it wasn't a far stretch, believe me, folks, okay, to write a story called Stealing Christmas, okay? But at the same time, I'm going, gee, Rob and R.A. Jones are doing a vampire series. what the heck kind of Christmas stories do you do about vampires? You're going to have to pick up a copy of this comic book to
because
check that out.
it's
all
really
right?
interesting what he comes up with. It's a
Yeah.
great idea. If I tell you any of it, it'll spoil it for you. But
All right. So,
it's a great little 6-page story. And I
so
also
there you
did one
go.
with Barb Kahlberg on her character Divinity. I did a little 6-page story, and that one's a heart-tugging tearjerker. It's really great story, so that's worth picking up too. And R.A. Jones has got a couple of other stories that he wrote for that. And the thing is just chock full.
Yeah.
And if they're all as good as these stories that we're talking about right now are, this thing's a blockbuster.
It
So
is. It is. It's an exceptional title. And out of time for Christmas. Hey, look, you got friends, buy a couple extra copies and give them as Christmas gifts. Okay, I'm sure they'll be grateful for it. So there you go.
yep,
All right.
looks great. Also,
Okay.
so anyway, here we go. We've come
Not
to
yet.
the end.
Not yet.
One more
Not yet.
thing. All
Yeah, I've
right.
got actually a couple. The one that's
Okay.
personal for me though is, as you're listening to this, it is October the 26th. Okay, and in a week and a half, I am going to be down in Denver at the Rocky
Yeah.
Mountain Con. Okay, the con runs Saturday and Sunday, November the 6th and the 7th. All right, it's my home show, as Rob likes to do, Planet Comic Con. Rocky
Right.
Mountain is my home show. It's run by a great guy named Tim Moret and his wife Nicole. And I love to go down there. I love the show. I love the people who put it on. We have a great time. And some of the guests, aside from yours truly, Mike Barron's going to be along. Bob Hall is going to be there. There's a young artist named, I believe, James Martin, who's done some work for Marvel, DC, and Nintendo. And he'll
Ooh.
be on hand as well. And I just found out this morning, one of the volunteers who helps out, a girl named Sue Small, got a hold of me and Mike and asked if we would do a panel on comic writing. So
Okay.
that's going to happen on Saturday afternoon, the last hour of Saturday between 5 and 6 o'clock, where Mike and I are going to sit around and talk a little bit about what writing comics is all about. So it looks like a fun show. Valerie comes with me to this one as well too. It's a getaway weekend for us in Denver. We have a great time. So that was number one. If you're in the Denver area, November 6th and 7th, drop on by and say hi. We'd love to see you. The second thing I just wanted to mention, Rob, and then we'll get to that amazing joke of yours, is that
Well, amazing. I don't know.
I just mentioned the date of this recording, and we were talking about anniversaries or whatever, and like the Chicago fire. Okay, today is 140 years since the Earp brothers and Doc Holliday walked into the OK Corral in Tombstone, Arizona,
Wow, I
and
did
had
not
it
know.
out with the Clantons and the McClowrys. Arguably one of the most mythic gun battles of the old Wild West. That was today, 140 years
I
ago.
have a book on that I've had sitting in my pile to be read. I'm going to have to pick that up and read it now that it's the anniversary, because it's a hardback. I bought this thing years ago. I just never have sat down to read it, but it's actually a historic. I believe it's historic. I'll have to look at it again. Talking about the real shootout at the OK Corral. Everyone who thinks they know about the OK Corral, the movies no, it wasn't like that at all. It was completely different. I'm not sure which one of the portrayals is close, but none of them were exact.
Well, yeah, and that's the point.
Something's fictionalized almost every version.
It's become mythical. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. One thing I do know for a fact, the historical accuracy is it lasted all 30 seconds.
Yeah, it was boom. It was over with.
But now, 140 years later, and we're still making movies, we're still writing books.
30 seconds of gunfight has made a huge story that's been told and retold and retold and retold until the fact. Who knows what the facts are at this point? Probably.
Well, that's what I saying. Hey, if nothing else, it's the power of myth, my friends. The power of myth.
Yep.
All right, so that's it. That's the the good. Hard facts,
the good, the bad, and now the ugly.
we've given you medicine. We've given you history. Now another bad joke. Go get him, buddy.
Okay. Well, this joke, I cribbed this one from the late great Norm Macdonald. We lost him earlier this month, earlier in October, And I thought, well, it was only fitting that I check and see what kind of jokes he would tell, and retell one of his jokes. Well, I've had to change a couple of things because it wasn't quite appropriate, but I've changed a couple of things. But this is essentially a joke written and done by Norm Macdonald. So anyway, here we go. A moth goes into a podiatrist's office and the doctor says, "What seems to be the problem, moth?" The moth says, "What's the problem? Where do I begin, man? I go to work all day long and I toil. Honestly, doc, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I don't know if my boss knows. He only knows that he has power over me, and that seems to bring him happiness. But I don't know. I wake up in a malaise and I walk here and there. At night, I sometimes wake up and I turn to some old lady in my bed that's on my arm, a lady that I once loved, doc. I don't know where to turn to. My youngest, Alexandria, she fell into flitting about with the ladies of the night near the lamppost on the corner. And my other child, and this is the hardest pill to swallow, doc, my boy, Gregorio, I no longer love him, as much as it pains me to say. When I look into his eyes, all I see is the same cowardice that I catch when I take a glimpse of my own face in the mirror. If only I wasn't such a coward, then perhaps I could bring myself to reach over to that cocked and loaded gun that lays on the bedside beside me and end this hellish facade once and for all, Doc. Sometimes I feel like a spider, even though I'm a moth, just barely hanging on to my web with an everlasting fire underneath me. I'm not feeling good." And so the doctor says, "Moth, man, you're troubled, but you should be seeing a psychiatrist. What on earth did you do coming here?" And he goes, "Because the light was on." Yeah.
Oh, oh, oh. Well done, Rob. Well done. Bravo.
Oh,
Well narrated.
thank you, the late great Norm
Oh,
Macdonald, for a great bad joke.
oh my God. I was a fan.
Yeah,
He was so slick and so subtle. All right, and the
yeah,
jokes would sneak up on you. Really,
just
really
like that one. Yeah,
deadpan delivery all the time. Oh yeah. So hey,
yeah, yeah.
wonderful. Nice tribute. And so that's it. Hey, we're coming close to the end of the hour, and want to thank the internet for allowing us
For
to get
allowing us to actually get all the way
through.
through
All right.
without me having to edit pieces together. Thank you.
Unlike Facebook, they haven't found us yet, Rob.
No, I guess not. Yeah, I mean,
And you know what? Hey, I'm look, I mentioned this last podcast, and I'll mention it again now too, because I keep a track on views and whatever, and we're about like 62, 64
yeah,
views,
yeah.
okay? And what I find interesting is that as the months go by, those things keep growing. There are still people, maybe insomniacs at night,
Suddenly
getting
finding
better
this
than
on the internet. I don't
yeah,
know,
and
but
looking shows we did a year ago. Okay, so hey, welcome still. Okay, we're
yeah,
glad.
yeah.
Hey, that's it for this episode. Rob, why don't you sign us out?
All right, this is Chief Engineer Rob Davis signing off.
And as ever, Captain Ron says,
Down
down ship.
ship.